Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Fed. How we doing?
Good, man. How you doing, Manny?
I'm
Thanks for
good.
having me on.
It's all good. Now we have previously tried to film this, but I was away, and we'll say the internet was less than ideal. But we made it back. But for people listening in, if you give us a little background on sort of how you got into S&C and where you're currently at.
Yeah, so my name is Federick Brooks. Everybody just calls me Fed. I got into strength and conditioning way later than the most people would. I graduated from high school and then I went off to college to play baseball. Pretty much walked on to a HBU, Prairie View A&M baseball team. But 9/11 happened in the United States. The Twin Towers got bombed. And so at that point, I decided like my grades were already kind of going bad. My home situation was kind of a rocky place. So I ended up joining the military. So I went back to school my second semester, was on the baseball team, wasn't really getting a lot of playing time, but I didn't really care because I was going to the military. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps and did 10 years active duty in the Marine Corps. And when I was getting out of the military, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I really didn't know. And my wife at the time was like, "Why don't you get into fitness? You always had high PFT scores, you had high combat fitness scores, right? Why don't you get into fitness?" So I got a basic personal training certification and started working as a trainer at this big box gym in Virginia and was working at a couple other places. But a couple things actually happened when I was working at that box gym. We used to have this promotion for 3 sessions for $99. And I would get these clients that would buy the 3 sessions, but I could not convert them to actual clients. And so I was talking to this one trainer one day, and I didn't really like that trainer at the time, but I respect the hell out of him now. But I was like, man, I just don't understand why I can't convert these leads into actual clients. And he goes, well, you're killing them. I said, I know, man. I'm giving them great workouts. Like I'm, kicking their asses. And even my weakest Marines can do this stuff. And he goes, that's just it, Fed. Like, you're not a sergeant in the Marine Corps anymore. Like, you're working with normal, everyday people. And so at that point, I realized two things. One, that I needed to get better at empathy and just understanding like progressions of exercises, how people actually feel and think, recovery, so on and so forth. But I also needed to understand better about anatomy, physiology, and actually how to train. So after that experience, I actually went back to school and got my degree in recreation, health, and fitness resources with a concentration in kinesiology from George Mason University, and then moved out to Washington State in 2014. So when I got out to Washington State, I really wasn't trying to get a strength conditioning job because I had a wife, a kid, and another kid on the way. And so I really just didn't see myself going to go work at a graduate assistant program or an internship making very little money. So I started working in the big box gyms, became a trainer at like 24 Hour Fitness, and I worked my way up from a trainer to a fitness manager. And then kind of did the whole bounce around from a couple different places just to try to make ends meet. And in 2016, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of working for everybody else. Like, I feel like I have the skill set to work for myself. And so I started my own business. So 2016, March 7th, 2016, I started Sound Sports Performance and Training. And we started off with just a handful of personal training clients. But as I started building my business, building my book of business, I started to understand like a little bit more of the marketing side of things, more of the advertising, and just understanding like what people actually wanted and what they needed, not just an everyday trainer. So I kind of started branding myself a little bit more. Like I had already got my CSCS. I had a bachelor's degree. In 2016, I also started my master's program. I got a master's in kinesiology from AT Still University. So I started a master's program, started my business at the same time. But I also was like, well, what else do I need to do to gain customers, gain clients, to set myself apart from the everyday trainer? So I actually did get my CSCS. It took me 4 attempts to pass my CSCS, but luckily I ended up passing my CSCS as I was an adjunct professor as well. And that's kind of how I got into strength and conditioning. I know that's a very long way about it, but like I just didn't come up the traditional ways of strength and conditioning like most coaches did, right? Like I've coached at the high school level, the individual private sector level, but I've pretty much been a private sector trainer my entire time. The NSCA doesn't really count leading Marines as coaching, which is funny to me because I'm like, I was a combat conditioning specialist in the Marine Corps and I did 10 years active duty in the military, but it's not considered. So it is what it is. So I've been a CSCS since probably 2018, 2020, actually 2017. And that's kind of how I got into strength and conditioning just in the private sector.
Nice. Again, we've kind of spoke about it, but I kind of want to revisit it because there were some good takeaways from it. What's some things that are currently firing you up to keep, pushing your business, pushing the way you're coaching these athletes and, clients?
I think for me, the biggest thing that kind of fires me up is the fact of like, I work with normal everyday people, right? Like in the private sector, I do have athletes, but I also have grandmas. That fires me up is the fact of, athleticism is a spectrum, like you can be really, really, really super athletic on one end, but you could also be older, or you could be really, really, really non-athletic, but be younger. And it's something that's trainable. And that's what I really like about what I'm doing right now is the fact that I work with a lot of grassroots athletes, 10, 11, 12-year olds that are just trying to get a little bit better. Their parents are starting to see the value of strength and conditioning. That's another thing that's really cool right now. And on top of that too, like even some of my older clients that I work with, my oldest client is 83 and she loves to trap bar deadlift. She played sports when she was growing up, obviously in the time that she was playing sports, it was a little bit more of a Title IX issue. But, I've worked with athletes as far as 10 all the way up through 80. And that's what's cool because, fitness and training is for everyone. It's not like there's a certain, what am I trying to say? It's not like it's just for one person, right? But there's many ways to skin a cat in this industry.
Yeah. Um, Again, another part that I found very interesting that we kind of spoke about, and it's something maybe to highlight a little bit. It's going from the Marines, like sort of training them to do what they need to do, and then going back to that general population. And, now you've got real civilians that aren't able to be as pushed as hard. What was that like for you to sort of go from like let's load them up as much as possible to like okay, like let's figure out what you actually need to smartly build you up?
And it was definitely a learning curve. And I know that when I was in the military, the TSAC certification wasn't really as prevalent. If it was in the NSCA, there really was it was just Marines that was doing it the way that their Marines before them had done it, right? So the way their gunnery sergeants and their staff sergeants and the way that their NCOs had kind of led them before. So there wasn't really a strong structured way to PT without breaking everyone. And as I remember, as I was getting out, because I got out in Quantico, Virginia, as I was getting out, that's when they were starting to make this MOS, so this military occupational specialty, where someone was basically getting the knowledge as a trainer and to lead unit PTs and lead them effectively without breaking Marines. Because the whole thing in the military is we need you to be strong, we need you to be efficient, but we need you to be combat ready. And so that's the way they train. And the Marine Corps is some of the hardest training there is too, especially in boot camp. But that's kind of the difference between the civilian world and the military. The military, they need you to be combat efficient, combat ready. Well, in the civilian world, you don't have to be combat ready. And it was a transition that was a little bit tricky for me in the beginning. Like I said, I had to learn a lot about anatomy, physiology. I had to learn a lot about just straight empathy in the sense of like, not everybody is willing to push their limits, push their body to the limit, go for broke. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Some people just want to feel better. Some people are already hurting. Some people, just want to lose a few pounds. Some people just want to, feel a little bit athletic. Some people want to train for a half a marathon and then not really do anything else. So it was a big difference that I had to switch in my brain. And it took me a little while too, to kind of get rid of some of those ethos, not get rid of, but to kind of change some of those ethos that I had coming up in the military, because it is a little bit of a brainwash, right? Like you're taught to run hard, shoot well, move, shoot, communicate. But in the civilian world, like not everybody's like that. Some people just, want to have a little bit of ease going up and down the stairs and they're carrying groceries. And so I think it took me a minute to just kind of step in people's shoes, because for 10 years I was indoctrinated in the military, boots on the ground, that kind of mentality. But it was different when I got into, the 42-year-old dad who's got 3 kids and a stressful job, who just wants to feel a little something that he did when he was in his 20s. But now that I'm that 42, 43-year-old dad that wants to feel something in my 20s, I get it a lot better now. But, when you're 22, 23, 25 years old, you're young, dumb, and full of it. And so you kind of think a little bit different. You think that you're invincible. And again, now I understand that a lot more.
Yeah, and I think again we were kind of talking about the pathway that we as coaches sort of come through, where it's a lot of research, it's a lot of hard science. And I mean, I kind of started talking about like when we're talking about ATs, PTs, nutritionists, one, they're a registered title, but to get this registered title and to become this professional, they kind of need to tap into a couple different areas of the industry, whether it's like hospital work, gen pop, athletics, high school level. Like they kind of have to bounce around quite a bit. to become a registered whatever. I think, again, kind of going back to that soft skills and, these skills that you learn, the empathy, the caring about more than just, pushing them as hard as possible. I think that would be a good way for us to, one, eliminate some of that hardness that we go through, or like this mind frame of they're lab rats, I just need to get them through A and B. Here's a quick word from our sponsor, TeamBuildr. I've personally been using TeamBuildr since 2022, and it's genuinely changed how I run primitive athletics. Writing programs, delivering them to the clients and athletes, tracking their progress, and it all lives in one place. My clients get their sessions on their phones. I see their progress, I get messages from them, and we are able to stay in constant contact and be able to track every single metric that I need. I spend less time on admin and more time actually coaching. Check out teambuildr.com, and if you use promo code PACHUCKUP altogether, you get 30-day free trial and you get access to the AMS system.
Yeah, I mean, like you talk about soft skills, and that's one of those ones where they can be developed. But again, it kind of depends on how you were taught in the first place, right? Like we do, understand that there's a place for research, there's a place for nutrition, there's a place for all of those things, but also just understanding people. The psychology of exercise is so fascinating to me, right? Like, especially in the private sector. Like when I went back to school and got my master's degree, I got a dual concentration in sport and exercise conditioning and sport and exercise psychology. And the psychology stuff was the stuff that blew my mind the most, right? Like understanding the ATP, CP energy systems and understanding, conditioning, work to rest ratios, that's all good, right? Like that's all fine and dandy. But the psychology piece is what really interests me a lot, because now you're getting people to do things that they don't necessarily want to do, but you're convincing them that they should do it, they need to do it, and it's good for them. And you're convincing them to pay you money to have you boss them around to do it. It was so funny because I had a client one time many years ago. It was like, "You were in the Marines, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, they haze people in the Marines." I was like, "Nah, hazing is not really that bad." He was like, "Well, now you're getting paid to haze people. You're getting paid to haze me." And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess that's right. Like I am getting paid to haze people." But it is, the psychology of exercise is so fascinating because, again, you're trying to get people to follow what you're saying when they don't really want to. And it does take a while to kind of get to that point. I'm kind of going back to your original question, like where we was talking about, there's a place for everybody and everything, but it's a funny journey, I guess. I don't remember where I was going with that.
No worries. I think so. Again, in Scottish people tend to joke a lot more than being serious. And the US is kind of figuring this out just now in Boston and whatnot, as Scottish people are drinking them dry. But what's funny is, like, with my clients, sometimes if they're feeling a bit soft that day, I'm just like, "Oh, if you give me a second, I've got some man the fuck up pills in the car. I'll give it to you." And then they're like, "Fuck." So then they'll get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's what we talked about a little bit on that last time that we was talking, is really just understanding people. Like in this industry, strength conditioning, personal training, athletic training, anything, any of these industries, if you understand people, you will go a long way. I tell all my young trainers, I tell interns this, you got to understand people and like just the way they tick. And sometimes if you tell them, "Hey man, wait, let me look in my pocket, see if I give a fuck that are tired right now." That might not go over so well with some of your clients, right? With some of your athletes, that might be more of a challenge, So if you understand the way to motivate people, or at least the way to kind of get in people's head to get them to do a little bit extra, you'll go a long way in the industry. So if you are so rigid by what the science says, if you're so rigid by, what the study says, or we're supposed to do this protocol this way, it's really hard to kind of get the results that you want out of people, or at least to get them to continue to train with you, at least in the private sector. I can't speak for, allied health professions, but in the private sector, working with clients, most of the time people will train with you because they like you. Like they like what you have to say. You're not walking around with your credentials across your forehead. They like who you are. They like training with you. They like the vibe that you put out. They like the environment that you're in. They like something that keeps them coming back. And usually it's not the fact that you are killing them. It's not the fact that you are you have the best programming. Most of the time people don't even know what their programming really consists of. They just know that they see some results and they like training with you and they don't want to be anywhere else. And people tend to be a little bit more loyal when they really know, like, and trust you. That's business one-on-one.
I mean, so something I've been speaking about recently, which you're kind of touching on, it's like because you're not working around with your credentials on your forehead. And I also will say this: probably some of the best coaches in the world aren't advertising themselves. Like they're not on social media. Like they don't care. I only do social media because I have a podcast. If it wasn't for that, I'd be off social media so quick. But the thing that I kind of go back to is like I would prefer word of mouth than like, having 10K, 20K, 30K on social media. Like again, you don't have your credentials, but if someone's willing to put their word in for someone, I think that's nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you have people who can vouch for what you do. That's amazing, right? Because again, it helps out with that know, like, and trust situation. If someone is trained with you and they go off and give you a good recommendation saying, hey, by the way, Manny's the awesomest trainer that's ever lived and walked the face of the earth, and their buddy wants to train with you, they're more than likely going to listen to what you or what their buddy's going to have to say versus, a Google review or a Yelp review. Those are always great because people want to see that you know what you do. But again, like you said, none of us are walking around with our credentials on our head, and some of the best coaches don't even have those high level credentials. I am notoriously bad about being a title chaser. I'll be the first one to tell you, where I feel like I just have to have that next title, that next credential. And I've gotten to a point in my career where it's like I don't really care. Like I need that, but I'm also working for myself. Like I'm not building a resume anymore. I'm not, trying to get the next position over the next guy. I'm not trying to look any more qualified than the other. Like I know what I know and I know who I know and I know how to do the things that keep me in business and keep my lifestyle the way it's supposed to be. Do I need to go and continue to chase these titles? Not really. I do think credentials are important. I really, really do. I mean, if you have some high level credentials, awesome, but I also know that too, that sometimes these credentials are just a little bit of a money suck. They're just trying to get you to continue to pay and renew your membership or continue to do your continuing education credits. And that, again, is all well and good. But if you're doing the same things over and over and over, and these credentials don't really help you out that much, then what's the point? I damn sure don't want to dog any organization or any credentials because there is one that I'm actually trying to get, but I've been holding off from getting it for a while just because of my integrity. Like it requires you to be a coach for teams for 2 years or more. And I was like, well, I've been a coach, and again, they won't consider my military service, which blows my mind, but a coach with a coach's voice and a coach's thought and a coach's attitude and a coach's eye for many, many, many years. Do I really need this designation to tell me that I'm a good coach? I don't think so. But will I get it? Probably. Probably not. It's just a lot harder to do in the private sector because there's not a lot of teams, at least where I am, that are hiring strength and conditioning coaches. Hell, in Washington State, I feel like there's a lot of people who still don't even know what strength and conditioning is. They don't even know what the difference between a strength and conditioning coach and a personal trainer. So it is what it is. It makes it a little bit harder to get some of the credentials that I'd like to have. But at the same time, if I never achieve those credentials, does it really matter where I am in my life? It doesn't. So, chasing credentials is awesome, right? Like, especially as a young coach, as a young person learning and coming up in the industry. Yeah. But just because you have those letters behind your name does not mean that you are about to get the job that you want. It does not mean that you're going to internship that you want. It does not mean anything. It just means that you have paid money to do some things and you know some things. But again, the best coaches are the ones who get into the literature, they get into the knowledge, they get into the expertise, are out there on the floor coaching people, doing things. Experience plays a big part of that, not just, that you took a test and you paid $20 for the CEU.
So we've kind of talked about this prior when we were messaging, and I told you that I kind of like to ruffle some feathers
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes to this. And here's my take, and it's a public take. I've kind of been honest with this, but one, like if I've so I understand the point of credentials or accreditations. Like you need to demonstrate that you're capable of performing what you did at university. But in saying that, I also think if you're going to university, that should prepare you enough. Besides the point, though, I agree that we need a professional standard to be held so that you can, barrier to entry. You need a barrier to entry. But in saying that, it's a tick box. If you meet the requirements, you pass. Now, does that mean you're a capable coach? No. It just
No.
means you pass the test.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was in Italy for a week, and their accreditation process requires you to do a week-long practical to be accredited. That to me is useful. Like, you have to partake in this in person, live, learning skills, teaching, doing to become accredited.
Yeah.
So,
And
like,
those are the kind of the credentials that I actually really do like. And I know that, again, not to knock my organization, because I do actually love the NSCA, but I think the NSCA should have that. If you are going to be a CSCS, you should probably have to do some length of time where you're interning with someone. I know they're trying to do that with the RSCC, where they have an assistantship program where you are an up and coming strength coach, or you want to get your CSCS, and you intern or you extern basically with a RSCC somewhere, but I don't think it's as high as it is, and just because, again, you have a bachelor's degree in exercise science, you have all the theory, you have all the fundamentals, that does not make you a good coach. It takes time to go out there and have actual time to coach people on the floor where you're doing things too. And so I really do think that some of the accreditations that we have within our organization are changing, and I think that is the good thing. I really wish that it would change a lot faster, but it is what it is,
well,
so there's so many people right now, and especially in the private sector world, that call themselves strength coaches, but they're really not. And if anybody watching the podcast wants to say, "Oh, well, Fed, you've never really been a strength coach either," you're right. I haven't been a strength coach in the way that you think that I am. Like, I don't need to be in the
so
private sector or in the collegiate sector. Oh, go
I'm I'm going to interrupt you there because this is something that I'm growing more frustrated at, and
ahead.
I don't know how I want to approach it yet, but I think so. A strength coach to me involves formal education. A personal trainer to me involves like a couple weekend courses. There's maybe some colleges in the UK that do it as a course, a year-long course. But majority of personal trainers is a couple weekends courses. You get your certificate, you can go out and coach or train people. I am growing frustrated of coaches who have done formal education classing themselves as a personal trainer. And there's not really that separation between, okay, I'm a graduate, I've done God knows how many years at university. I did my CSCS or some form of accreditation, but I'm still getting called a PT. And we're accepting that. I feel and believe now there's great personal trainers, not denying this. There's also horrible strength and conditioning coaches who have been graduates. It's not one's better than the other, but there's a formal, higher education that's involved with strength and conditioning coaching or human performance or athletic preparation, some form of title. I don't think that if you've went through that formal education, you should allow people to call you a personal trainer because you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I get called a personal trainer, and the first thing I say is, no, no, I'm not. You know, I've done 4 years of university. I've got two different types of accreditations. I'm not a personal trainer,
I think a
and I
lot
think
down to marketing, though. I mean, it really kind of depends on where you are and what industry. Because if you market yourself as a personal trainer, you're going to have that stigma, that connotation of, what a personal trainer is and all the good, bad, or indifferent about a personal trainer. If you market yourself as a strength and conditioning coach, then you're going to have all the stigma that comes with a strength and conditioning coach. So I think it boils down to how you want to front face the public. Do you want to be someone that's working with general population, or do you want to be someone that's working with the athletic population? And I think that's what sometimes it boils down to. I used to get really pissed off that people will call me a personal trainer, but I've now started, and I've done this always, but I've started to slightly politely tell them, like, hey, no, I'm a strength and conditioning coach with a 4-year bachelor's degree, a 2-year master's degree, high level credentials, many years in the industry. This is what I do, and this is what I provide, and this is why I charge the amount that I charge. So if you want to work with a personal trainer, the guy down the street who's going to fuck your kids up, go right ahead. Go down there with them. And that's the biggest reason why I kind of promote myself more as a private sector strength coach. Now, have I been in the collegiate setting? No, I don't need to go to the collegiate setting, because a lot of the guys the strength coaches I know that are in collegiate setting are doing the exact same things that I'm doing, except they're doing them with, 1 or 2 teams at a D2 making way less money. In the private sector, no one can tell me how much money I can make. No one can tell me how much time I can take off. Like I run my own business. I do my own thing. And that sounds a little cocky, a little conceited, but that's the reason why I do it is because I knew coming out of the military, it was going to be really hard for me with my PTSD to work for anybody else. And so for me to go and work at a D3, a JUCO and BFE making $20,000 a year when I had a family support, I was like, nah, I can't really do that. But, again, I came out of school with a bachelor's degree in exercise science, kinesiology. My master's in kinesiology with a dual concentration in sport and exercise conditioning, sport and exercise psychology. I am a CSCS with distinction. So that means I do a ton of continuing education credits. I am the state director of Washington. I wish you would call me a personal trainer because I'm going to laugh in your face and say, you're right. I am a personal trainer, but not every personal trainer can be a strength conditioning coach, but every strength conditioning coach can be a personal trainer. I don't let it bother me too much anymore these days, though it is what it is, right? If you want to call me a trainer, just know that like the rates that I'm charging you are going to reflect the fact of like I'm not your everyday trainer who just got a general certification over a weekend. And I think that what I do, at least in my business, the trainers that do work underneath me, I also raise their elevation of training and professionalism. So if they do have a basic level personal training certification, I'm saying, hey, your next pay grade is when you get up to your CSCS, and this is where I want you at. But until then, like your rates are going to be here. This is how much you're going to make. But when I'm selling training and I'm giving those training sessions to another person, I'm going to charge them at my rate. So I'm actually helping my trainers make more money just off of my credentials. And so that's one of the things that I know I definitely have to kind of, if I'm being self-critical, is learn to not let so many people piggyback off of my work. I have been really, really, really bad about just being the absolute workhorse to make things happen, the tip of the spear. And some of that is the military training. But I got to start getting a little bit better about saying, hey, you know what? All tides raise ships. But at some point, you also got to pull your load and do the things that you're supposed to do and get your credentials up. And so get your experience. Yeah, that was a rant. Sorry about that.
Today's episode is sponsored by Eccentric. You all know I'm a big fan of keeping training simple and effective, and flywheel training fits that perfectly. Now, I've been using Eccentric K-Box since 2021, and it's one piece of equipment, endless exercises, and resistance that adjust to you automatically. However much effort you put in is what you get out. No guessing the weight, no loading plates, just move. And the flywheel matches your effort perfectly. Check out the K-Box or the K-Pulley at the link in the description. No, it's all good. But so to sort of kind of go back to the meaning of strength and conditioning, I don't think it just pertains to athletes. And I think this is where a lot of this injury is going wrong, but it's slowly the tides are slowly starting to shift with the inclusion of, S&C in the combat sector, S&C in the high school medical sectors. Like S&C is just, it's strength. Everyone needs strength. A grandma that's 86 might need strength and conditioning to carry the shopping in the house. They might need some strength to, put the cans on the top shelf. Like, I don't think S&C is just for athletes. And again, this is why. So I think strength and conditioning is, you've got a higher level of understanding on what's going on in the body. So again, being called a personal trainer for me is like, yes, but I know a lot more than, your typical personal trainer that's done a couple weekends. But then again, yeah, I've it's starting to bother me because like I've seen a lot of good coaches go and just be called a personal trainer, and that to me it's like not really the same. And it's kind of what you're touching on. It's like your pay will reflect it. And again, moving to the private sector is then different because you can charge what you want. And like so when people ask me for my price and I tell them I do get quite a bit, oh, that's high. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
here's why. Here's my
Yeah.
result.
Be expensive.
Yeah. And it's like, it's this move as well from like a lot of coaches are coming out of the collegiate setting because there's no money. And then we're bitching about it because it's like, yeah, there's no money, but I want to deal with athletes. Cool. Do you know how many kids aren't getting S&C in the high school and the college level that you can capitalize on?
Yep.
Like, it's not just about, like, and again, UK, Scotland specifically. Like, there's not a lot of universities with SSC programs. So like there's our box conference, but that's not the same as D1 or D2 or D3. But like we want kids to be in the Olympics. We want kids to be, playing professional sports, but we're not preparing them for it. So I'm capitalizing on that. Let me make a program for kids to come in and, be better athletes. And I always say this, and actually during one of my presentations, I said our goal as strength and conditioning isn't just to make them faster, stronger, more powerful. Our job is to make them last longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because so if we're thinking about sports is their job, is their sole job. They get paid to play. They get paid to be there.
Hello. Hang on a second, Manny. Let me give you my card right quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm on a live podcast.
No.
But I'll give you my card.
Take your time with it. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
Manny's
You're
in
good.
Scott. What's your name?
Jasmine.
Jasmine, I'm Fed.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Adam.
Fed, nice to meet you.
Hannah.
Hannah, nice to meet you. So what do you do?
I just am a student. I'm living here and
Okay.
I look for something super close, convenient.
Yeah.
And I just wondering the price.
So you're a student right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we do have student memberships.
Okay.
Everyone that comes in does have to do a consultation,
Okay.
and the consultation is usually pretty quick. It's like, hey, do you know what a dumbbell is? Do you know what a barbell is? Do you know what you're doing? And it's mainly to make sure that people aren't stupid and they do stupid stuff. But other things too is if you are looking for coaching, we do coaching too. So we, like I said, it's kind of a mixture of the both. We have open memberships, and then we also have coaching too.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let me get your contact information as well too, and I'll give you a call later today or tomorrow.
But how about I call you instead?
Yeah. Did you just graduate?
No, I'm.
Are you coming in?
Yeah.
Incoming freshman?
I'm a third year, so I'm gonna go into fourth year. Incoming fourth.
What program are you?
I go to UCLA, so I'm here for the summer for work, for internships. I'm just living here, but I'm.
Oh, you live upstairs just for the summer?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely let me know, because if you're a short-time membership, we definitely have some stuff like that we can hook you up
Okay,
into.
cool. I'll give you a call.
All right.
Thank you
All right,
so much.
you're welcome. Take care.
You're welcome.
Anyway, sorry about that.
That's all good. Again,
Alright.
run my business. I would rather you put the attention in.
I kind of hate when people walk in though, because honestly, we're like, just because when I moved into a bigger space, like in the 10 years that I've been in business, we started off contracting. Well, I started off just contracting out of somebody else's gym. And then I moved into, like, when COVID time was going on, the gym that I was contracting out of sold it right before COVID started. And then he sold it to this other guy, and this other guy was like, oh, we got to shut the gym down, and this, that, and third, during COVID. And I was like, I got mouths to feed, man. So I ended up finding this like 250 square foot garage that I just, threw some equipment in there. And then I moved from a 250 square foot garage to like a 1,700 square foot space. And then I was there for like 4 years. And now I'm in this like 3,600 square foot space. So because I'm in this space now, my business model has changed. And it's a little different because I'm still kind of figuring out the best ways to move into this bigger space with a business model. So the space is big, but it's not super huge. So I really don't want to be like a gym situation where it's just like everybody has an open gym membership. So I do have some open gym memberships, but I'm selective about who I want to come in here. And that's why I make everybody who is just interested in a gym membership, make them do a consultation, because I'm like, I'm not about to have you dumbasses in here, doing some shit that you shouldn't be doing, or hurting yourself, or trying to sue me, or breaking my equipment. So I'm really selective about that. So, but that's what I said. I low-key sometimes hate when people just walk in and they ask for membership, because I'm like, I'm busy, man. I got shit to do right now. Talking to my man Manny in Scotland.
That's a good business model. I'll tell you why. So, okay, one of my first private gym experiences, I was 18, 19. Yeah, I would have been 18, 19, maybe 20. I had to get interviewed to be a part of this gym.
Yeah.
Stage 1. Stage 2 was a member had to vouch for me.
Ooh,
And then, it was a 3-strike rule. If you were a dickhead in the gym, you got a warning. If you were a dickhead further, fucking gone.
Yeah. For me, it's because we got all brand new equipment. And like, honestly, when I tell you this is my dream, I wish it was a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to be greedy. But tell you, this has kind of been my dream since I started off becoming a strength conditioning coach. And like, just the opportunities that I wanted to have, I really, like, I had an opportunity to intern at Georgetown when I was getting my undergraduate degree, and I ended up having to turn it down because I would have had to travel too far, and it was going to cost me money in tolls and parking and everything. I ended up having to turn it down. So I took another internship that wasn't actually a paid internship when I was doing my undergraduate. But ever since that I switched my degree program from athletic training to, basically kinesiology with a focus more in strength conditioning, I knew that I was never really going to get the opportunity that I wanted to be at that highest level. So I'm telling you, every school, at least in America, if they have a kinesiology program, an exercise science program, and they specifically focus more on the strength conditioning side, they're selling you the dream of, oh yeah, you're going to get your CSCS, you're going to go be coaching, at the collegiate level, the professional level, this, that, and third. And I'm like, they sell you this dream. And I'm telling you, I don't know if it's on accident or on purpose, but that's not always the case. And just like we tell, athletes that, hey, only like a certain percentage of you athletes are going to go from high school to the collegiate level, and only a certain percentage of you are even going to play at the D1 level. And then from there, only a smaller percentage are going to go to the professional level. It's kind of like that in strength conditioning too. Like you get this degree and people are like, oh yes, I'm instantly going to be working with athletes. I'm instantly going to be doing this. And they end up working at 24-hour fitness. And again, no shade, because that's where you learn a lot in the trenches. You have the theory, you have the education, but sometimes you just need a little bit of the coaching eye. You need the experience. And so it's easy to kind of knock a strength coach that's working as a personal trainer. Going back to the conversation we was having a while ago, it's easy to kind of knock a strength coach who has credentials of an exercise science degree, maybe a CSCS, and they're working as a personal trainer. But in all reality, if you ever have any intentions of owning your own business, where do you think your leads normally come from? I tell people this on a regular basis. If you ever want to be successful as a personal trainer, sometimes you need to go and work at the Gold's gyms and the 24 hours and the LA Fitnesses and the Orange Theories, because you get to run into a lot of people. You run into a lot of people. And again, if you're good at what you do, that's when people go, oh, I remember you. To this day, I still have people like, man, I remember you from, Orange Theory from, 8 years ago. You were awesome coach, this, that, and third. It's like, yeah, what are you doing now? I run my own business. And then that's kind of how the leads come in. Without really paying for leads, that word of mouth. And again, that know, like, and trust is what sometimes brings people in the door. But I like this facility. When I tell you, like, I knew that I was never going to go, at this time, when I still have kids that are young, I'm never going to be a D1 coach, at least right now. That's going to be several years from now. But if I can't go to those places, why not create my own? And so that's what has been the dream of mine since I actually got a degree, and I realized that this is what I was going to do with the rest of my life after the military. Is I just started kind of creating those opportunities myself instead of waiting for them to come to me, just creating them myself.
I love what we're talking about, but I'll need to bring this back in because
Oh
I'll
yeah.
need to cut. But it's kind of what we were touching on, so I kind of want to have it recorded so we can talk about it. I also want to see your facility at the end if that's possible.
Yeah.
So we're back. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back. But what's interesting, we were just talking about, owning your own gym and, this dream that colleges sell. And I think you're kind of onto something. And it's like everyone's goal is to already work with established athletes who are at that upper echelon. And, it's about how can we get their name out there more and in turn my name out there more. And it's like, why not just create your own?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so again, I've kind of looked at it the two ways here, and the way I started the program for 4 to 11-year-olds was a little bit more of the council won't help with it, so I know kids need it. I've seen it work in the US, but there's nothing here for it. So what I've decided to do is okay, let me get a group chat full of mums that I know, that I've trained, that I've coached to, achieve their goals. I made a group chat with them. And I was like, hey, can I borrow your kids for an hour? So my goal is to those 4-year-olds will turn 11-year-olds. Those 11-year-olds will turn to 16-year-olds. The 16-year-olds and plus, that's who's playing sports. That's who's active. That's who might be good and might be selected to teams. And then their thing is, okay, Manny coached me this whole time. Let me reach back out to him. Let me see if I can get some more coaching. Now, the goal is to keep them throughout the whole time. But I'm looking at creating my own athletes. So let me start with the 4-year-olds. And again, we're not doing anything, we're not snatching, we're not cleaning, we're not squatting. I mean, we are, but can you touch the box with your butt and then stand up? Can you show me what a frog does? Can you show me what a snake does? A bear, a giraffe? It's just these things where you're introducing movement and, bodily control. It's like, hopefully at the end, this pays off and I get athletes. But it's like,
even if you don't, I mean, you're training people to move efficiently. God bless you for working with 4-year-olds. I don't have the patience to work with kids that young. I usually start mine around 10, and even still, some of the 10-year-olds, I'm like, I tell their parents, I'm like, look, I don't need your kid to be this stoic individual, but I'll train your 10-year-old if he's mature, if he can come into the weight room and understand that this is a place of work, but this is also a place where we're going to have fun. You're going to learn. It's an extension of the classroom. Matter of fact, this is a classroom. As a strength and conditioning coach, I'm a teacher. You know, as a strength and conditioning coach, I'm a coach, just like your basketball coach, your baseball coach. And like I said, God bless you for starting with the 4-year-olds. Like I couldn't do it. But you're right. I mean, if you know, like the dream is coming out of college, you know, with a strength and conditioning background, that you're going to go work with these professional athletes. But in all reality, a collegiate athlete, even a professional athlete, you're only making them iotas better, right? Like you're making incremental changes in their programming and incremental, minutely better. That's cool. And that really goes to a testament of how well you program and how well that athlete listens and adapts and so on and so forth. But from a 4-year-old to a 16-year-old, look at how much adaptation has happened, right? Some of it is natural, some of it's normal. You know, a 4-year-old is going to get bigger just because he's 4 and he's 5 and he's 6. They're going to get stronger because, again, a 4-year-old is going to get stronger, faster, whatever. But from the time that, you know, I really like working with kids ages 10 and above, because we can kind of keep them for a few years and see how maturation starts to play out, right? Like we've all seen the kid on the soccer field that is blowing by everybody because he's head and shoulders better than everybody. The kid in basketball that can, you know, shoot the ball, he's head and shoulders better than everybody, but at 7, 8 years old. But then when they get to about 14, 13, sometimes the playing field starts to level out, especially in girls, right? Girls, you know, hit their peak or hit their Jesus. That's what I'm trying to say. Their puberty levels like 12, 13 years old, right? So now if you got this kid who's been kicking ass and taking names, you know, on the soccer pitch for the last, you know, 5 years, and now they're all 13, 14 years old, like, oh, who's actually got the skill level? Who's actually got the strength? And so that's what I started to get a lot of parents that started to contact me. It was like, hey, my 13-year-old was pretty good for the last 5 years, but now she's playing up a level. She's playing with 15-year-olds, and these 15-year-olds are pushing her around. Or, you know, now they're playing with, you know, 16-year-old baseball players, and their arm speed is not the same. So what can we do right now to give them a little bit more of a competitive edge? And so that's why I like working with the grassroots athletes, because there's so much that we can do with them, just developing good movement patterns, you know, developing a work ethic, talking to them primarily about their nutrition. Like my goal is, I tell people all the time, my goal is, if you have the ability or you want to play at the collegiate level or the next level, I'm just trying to make sure that your strength coach in college goes, that kid looks like he knows what he's doing in the weight room, versus that kid's a fucking idiot. And I'm going to have to pull him to the side and coach them up a little bit more. And I like working in the private sector also too, because I did work in a high school, and the high school is great. Like you have a lot of kids at your influence at the collegiate level, but it's hard to coach them all really well at the same time. At least at the private level here, I can work with 5, maybe 6 athletes at a time, where I don't have to work with 25, 40 athletes in a football weight room. It's nice because I can give them more instruction, and hopefully that instruction makes them a little bit better because they know how to do the things. I'm a big believer in change the area that you're at first before trying to affect the whole world. If I can work with 1 or 2, maybe 4 or 5 kids on a smaller basis at 12 years old, by the time they're 16, they're good. They know what they're doing. By the time they're 18, if they are going off to play in the collegiate level, their strength coach at college goes, okay, this kid has been in the weight room for a while. So for me, that's why really working with grassroots athletes in my own facility is beautiful, because I don't need to work with everybody. As a matter of fact, I won't take everyone. I generally won't take every person that walks in the door. That's awesome. You want to go and post Instagram selfies all day long of you doing a butt blaster exercise? Be my fucking guest. Take your shit down the street to LA Fitness. You want to come in here to a training facility and work hard and put in the work to get better? Awesome. This is where you should be. And that's where a little bit of the military mentality comes out. But at the same time, like, I'm very selective about who I let come into the place, because this is my dream. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. This is my dream. And you're not about to come here and fuck my dream up. And the one that I worked so hard for to be here, yeah, every bit of this is mine, you know? So you want to be a part of this, you got to come in and play by the rules. Like we tend to focus not so much on a demographic of people, but a sociographic, like people who want to come in and get better every day, people who want to put in the work, not necessarily those that are just at the gym doing whatever,
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I say this to my kids too. The two parts to this. One, my 4 to 6 year olds, like it's basic. Like it's just getting to understand their movement. And like I've got parents messaging me like them doing now like feats of strength, like carrying like have you like when you get groceries delivered to your house, like it's a massive like basket thing that they gave you in, like a plastic basket. My 4 year olds are bringing stuff like that into the house.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking awesome. But then it's also like their standards and expectations. It's kind of what you're tapping into. So my 7 to 11 year olds, before each session, we go through our expectations. We listen, we behave, we get weights.
Mm-hmm.
We don't listen and we fuck around the whole time. There's no weights, and there's not a barbell until we can prove mastery of our own body. So it's kind of this thing of like we have to set out these standards and expectations. Like I think so I'll say the story, and I've said it before, but on one of the first classes I did, kids nowadays aren't ready to like fuck around and find out. Like teachers aren't as strict as they used to be
No.
here anyways. So, I was teaching, I was like, okay, we're going through weights, so the expectation is you listen, you do everything like I said. And then my 2 rules apply, slow and control. Every so often I'll say, what's the 2 rules? Slow and control. Everyone shouts it out. But I was doing a demo and this kid sort of stood up and started like mimicking what I was doing. And I was like, okay, let's sit down and listen so we can get this right. And they just kept going. I kind of turned it into mocking now. And I was like, okay, go sit next to your mom. And the kid was kind of like taken aback and was like you could see the tears forming. I was like, look, I've told you, let's sit down and listen. You're not ready to do that. So let's go sit next to your mom. And they kind of just sat down in a panic. And I was like, okay, now you've chosen to sit down and listen. If you continue to listen, we're good. You don't have to. But if you continue on this path, you're going to have to go. And then so like the rest of the class, fantastic. Not a
Yeah.
word. She
With that
listened the whole time. Like it was just, it was there. At the end of the class, I was like, yeah, like you did really well, like really well. But we can't like stop listening and start doing whatever. Like you need to listen because like we're dealing with weight. I don't want you to get injured. I want you to be as strong as possible and as capable as possible. So we need to listen. And the mom kind of goes, yeah, we have that issue at home. And I'm like, not here. We won't.
Yeah. Now you gotta set a standard. You gotta set a level of understanding, especially working with the young people. Like, hey, the weight room is fun. We want it to be fun. We want you to enjoy yourself while you come in here. We want you to understand that like this is your place. This is a place for you. I get parents that hit me up all the time. It's like, how old should my kid be before they start training? And I'm a big believer of like, I'll train your kids as young as they want to, but they have to have a level of maturity. And again, not necessarily being, this, upstanding person, but they have to be able to understand that again, we are teaching. We're teaching. We're teachers first, right? Coaches are teachers. And so again, when they come into the facility, like if they don't have this expectation, or if they have this expectation of like they're gonna do the exact same thing that they do at mom and dad's house and run around, fuck no. I will fuck around and find out with you because like I love working with kids. I really do. But I will tell them straight up, like, nah, I'm not taking your kid. I'll tell parents like, hey, little Johnny, we gave him a little warning today. He was cool for a minute, then he kept messing around and we had to go set him down. So that's why I've really vet the small ones that come in. And I told the kid the other day, I said, you don't touch anything until it talks to you and tells you to touch it. Wait, the dumbbell didn't say anything? All right, that means don't touch it. And again, trying to be a little bit funny, trying to joke around with them a little bit, but they also know too, that coach's voice will come out. That Marine Corps voice will absolutely come out. And the kids that I had a little consultation for the other day, the dad was a Marine. And so he knew exactly what I was talking about. He was like, oh yeah, I like this guy. I'm like, yeah, like I'm a fun guy. Like we are going to come in here and have a good time, especially when you're 11 and 12 years old. I want you to enjoy coming back. I want it to be something you look forward to coming to do because you're going to come in and improve your body. But I'm telling you right now, coach fed, teacher fed, is not fucking with you. The minute you start getting too far out of control, then it's like, hey, yeah, go over there somewhere. Go sit down. Or we'll do the traditional punishment of wall sits and bear crawls. And nobody wants negative reinforcement, but same time, like we really vet the kids that are coming in here and saying, hey, you got to follow these standards. You got to follow these rules. If you can't, then you can't be here.
Kind of going back to another point of yours that I kind of want to touch on. I think in running a business, no one's really going to help you unless there's something there for them. And you were kind of talking about like you really have to stop, pushing people's businesses to level up yours. And I think that comes from a thing of like, again, you've probably invested thousands upon thousands on that facility. So like, again, your paycheck relies on everything coming together. So like what I learned really early on was if it's not me that does it, no one's going to fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the kids program, I went ham with on the mum's group chat because I was like, no one's coming to help. I know this will work. I just need kids to validate it. So my approach was like, let me get mums involved. Again, as a parent, your budget is probably endless for your kids. Not so much for you, but for your kids, it's fucking endless.
Yeah.
So like if I can show mums that, hey, we're going to do some really fun things, but they're going to get better. And again, our goal is to also just build humans.
Yeah.
Will they be good contributing members of society at the end? That's one of the goals. If they don't make professional, will they turn back and switch the light off just because they knows it's a sucky job, but someone has to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of positive effect I want my kids to have. Is like things may suck, things may get worse, but let me still fucking do it. Again,
Yeah.
I care a lot about my business and I won't take mediocre. Like if we're doing something, we're doing it to the best of our abilities. You might be tired. Okay, let's adjust it. Let's see where you can get to. But we're still fucking making the most of that.
There's a great book that I read. I remember one of my professors, I'm going to shout him out, Joel Martin at George Mason University. He made us read this book called Talent is Overrated. And the big thing in that book was talking about deliberate practice. And that's kind of one of the big staples that I talk about with, especially when I'm working with athletes and young athletes too, is like, my goal in here is to train you, but also push you to a point to where the things that you don't necessarily want to do, you find efficiently well for you. And with deliberate practice, that's all it is. You're usually doing something it's just like practice, except you're doing something that you're normally not very good at. And it's usually under the watchful eye of a coach. And I told these kids this other day, I was like, look, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to do some things, and we're going to do some things that you probably won't like. You're going to do some things that are probably going to make you sore. They're going to make you tired. And I'm telling you right now, here's a bucket for your tears. Go ahead and let them fall in there, and we're going to put them over there. And at the end of the session, if you feel still like you need to cry about it, then cool, you can pick up your tears over there. But that's my whole job as a coach. My whole job as a coach is to do the things that you're not going to do on your own. Because if you were going to do it on your own, you would. Or if you're going to, or even if the things that you don't want to do, you're going to continue to do the things that you like to do and shy away from the things that you need to do. So my job as a coach is to give you the things that you're supposed to do and then make sure that you do it. It's an accountability thing. So deliberate practice is a big philosophy I focus on with my kids here, especially my young kids. It's like, hey man, we're going to do some stuff that you might not like. You can complain all you want to, but we're still going to do it. And honestly, your complaints aren't really hitting anything. Now, if it's a legitimate complaint, like, a position thing or, something straining or some legitimate complaint, then yes, we listen. But I'm not that hard nosed of an asshole. But for the most part, like, this is what the programming is. We're doing something that you don't like to do because you're not good at it. Well, guess what? How do you think you get better at doing it? You do the thing that you can't do more often. So sometimes people get that, sometimes they don't, especially with kids, like they generally want to do the things that's the path of least resistance. They want to be like water and just do something that's super easy. Comfort, change doesn't happen in comfort, right? Like you don't get better when you're comfortable, growth doesn't happen in comfort. If you ever are any kind of athlete or anybody that's trying to work toward any goal, you're going to go through those pains. Hopefully the good on the other side outweighs the shit that you're going through right now. And I don't know if that's a military thing for me also too. Like you just embrace the suck. It's going to suck, but at the same time, you're coming out on the other side. I'm a big believer also too of sweat and practice now, bleed less in combat later. So work hard right now, even though it sucks. It's going to be easy when it comes time to actually do it in real life.
I think that's something that we spoke about last time as well. It's okay. I give a presentation on conditioning, and one of my main points was, okay, like conditioning is fine, like we can do the normal ATP work and, you know, looking at our reserves and, you know, the normal stuff, but like in competition, I personally don't believe that that's good enough. Like there's going to be teams that are so fucking so much better than you, that's just going to suck, but I need you to know that you can push through it.
Yeah.
So like I was talking about, like, and I gave them examples, like practical examples on how to apply this. But it's like, okay, what's the dark side of conditioning? How can we take them to the deep end? How can we just let them sink? And it's that thing of like, okay, no one really loves to do like a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 ratio on sprints, like a 10-second on, 10-second off, or a 20-second on, 10-second off. Like no one loves to do that. But my kids and my clients do, because they know that prepares them for everything else. Again, it doesn't get easier, you just get better at it. But when you do go and compete, it's easy.
Yeah.
Like I had someone, I'm not sure if you know like what Deadly Dozen is. It's like this new hybrid between High Rocks and all these
Oh, God.
fucking
Another
events.
one of those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had two of my clients go for one. One of them was able to share more with their partner. So like instead of like the partner usually taking over, they were able to distribute the exercises more evenly. And my other one was like, yeah, I bet some of the fit lassies or girls. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. You just have both worked really hard for it. And like you're now not repaying, like to kind of gaining those benefits. And it's like the hard conditioning sucks. I do it myself. It fucking sucks. But I know mentally you can push through it.
I mean, there's something about anything that is a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio, 1-to-2 work to rest, anything that generally sucks, that builds mental fortitude. And that's where I think sometimes, and again, I'm not blanketing all young athletes right now, but I think a lot of young athletes have never really gone through anything adverse or gone through anything really hard. Yeah, they may have done some stuff that's hard in their sport, maybe, but I don't think that a lot of them have ever really faced anything extremely hard that has made them be able to fortify their brains to be able to say that, like, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but I know I'll be okay. But that goes back to a lot of the psychology piece of this whole conditioning part anyway, right? Like if you know and trust that your training is good, you'll be fine. Knowing that this game is only going to last 60 minutes is going to be fine. Prime example, like I said, I think we were talking about this in the waiting room. My son had a track meet this weekend down at Eugene, Oregon. Huge dream of his, right? Like he's wanted to run at the University of Oregon for forever. And I was like, kid, you're good, but you're not good enough to run at the University of Oregon. I'll be honest with you. But Hayward Field is iconic, right? That's where they do world trials for Olympians and everything. So it was a dream of his to kind of run down there. And so he was driving down to Oregon yesterday or Friday and started to get shaky. Like he was cold sweats and chills and stuff. And he was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to run tomorrow. I was like, first of all, I was like, bullshit. You running. We drove 6 hours down here, paid all this money and stuff. You gonna run. I don't care if you gotta walk across the finish line. But we pumped him full of some drugs that night and in the morning, some NyQuil, some Dayquil and stuff. And he was able to run. But then after he ran the 2K steeplechase, because he qualified for 2 events, he ran the 2K steeplechase. And then an hour later, he had to turn around and run the 800. And after he ran the 2K steeplechase, he was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to run the 800. Like my legs feel like jelly, my lungs feel like jelly, my nose is congested. Like and I was like, look, man, nobody expects you to run a PR today in the 800. Nobody expects you to win your heat. No one expects you to have this phenomenal race. You just got finished running 2,000 meter steeplechase. 2, you're a little on the weather. And 3, it's hot out here. I'm not making excuses, but no one's expecting you to actually do that. But you got to do the hard thing for 2 minutes. Your 800 race is about 2 minutes. So do something hard for 2 minutes and live in infamy. Like this is what you wanted. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that what you want is hard to get. There's so many people, so many things, so many obstacles that are standing in your way from you getting what you want. And it doesn't ever get easier. You just get better at dealing with the hard stuff. I read this quote the other day. It said something about like, it's not that this task is hard. This is just the part where people quit. Like it's never going to be easy. Nothing that you want is ever fucking just handed to you. And I think that having athletes go through some of this conditioning, at least on that level of going through something hard. And it's even better if you can go through something hard with other people. That's what I loved about the military. I loved that about the military. We all had to go through hard shit at the same time with 60, 80 other fucking people. But I distinctly remember, if anybody's ever been in the military or if they know anything about Marines, I distinctly remember we had the Crucible, which is like 2 or 3 days. It's like 2 days of just a bunch of combat related shit. And at the end of the Crucible, that's where they give you your Eagle Globe and Anchor. And it's just a little emblem that goes on your uniforms. But when I tell you, that's the part where drill instructors stop calling you a piece of shit. They stop calling you a recruit. They stop calling you every other name on the sun, and they start acknowledging you as being a fucking Marine. You are now with the brotherhood and the sisterhood of all those that have come before you, that have stepped on those yellow footprints. And when I tell you the shit that you go through, the hardness that happens over those 13 weeks in basic training is fucking worth it when they hand you that Eagle Globe and Anchor. I'm telling you, as a 19-year-old kid, that was it doesn't matter if I had won state championships. It didn't matter if I had won anything. Like that right there, this small little emblem that goes on my chest that is ingrained in me forever meant more to me then because I fucking earned that shit. You go through something hard. You go through something that's challenging. It's gonna suck, but there is beauty at the fucking end of it. There's infamy that lives on just by going through the hard things. And sometimes the young kids just don't want to experience the pain of working hard. And again, that's not all of them, but I'm telling you, trust me, I tell this to any of these athletes. If you want something, it's never easy. And just like you want to compete at the next level, the competition gets harder. You can sit here and bullshit your reps. You can, not count all your sets, all you're doing, and get out of things fast. But guess what? There's a kid on the other side of the street who ain't got a pot to piss in, who just wants to get out of his environment, that is busting his ass to be at the level that you're at, and is going to succumb you or surpass you if you continue to be that lazy one. Some of these kids buck up and they go, oh shit, you right, coach. Hey, let me get my shit together. And they do, because I've seen those kids. I've seen those kids that don't really have anything, but they will work. They work. They're not the most talented individuals. They are not just genetically gifted, but they will outwork you all day long. And they show up early. They leave late. They practice hard just to get that spot. And I'm telling you, a lot of them make the best of those opportunities. Those are my favorite athletes. Like, you don't have to tell them what to do. You need to coach them. And those are the ones that I love, 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 because I don't have to tell them to be in the weight room. I don't have to tell them to come early. I don't tell them to take off their fucking Crocs, to not lift in their Crocs. Like, they just do what they're supposed to do. They keep others in line. They keep others in check. They're bona fide leaders, but they may not be the best skilled athletes. They may not be the strongest individual, but they are there. They're encouraging. They work hard. They put in their hours and they bounce. That's it.
No, I agree. And I think we kind of spoke about this earlier. And, when I was starting this podcast, I was like frantically researching like how to run a podcast, what to do, how to edit, like all these things you go through. And one of the statistics I read was, people usually stop after the third episode. And I told you, the first thing I did was I filmed 5, because at least then I had 5 weeks to figure the fuck out what I wanted to do.
You're over the threshold of where people normally quit. And so, yeah. What are you on right now? Like 145?
I don't know the exact number, but it's about 150 plus. Like with side missions and everything else. Like and again, I love this part of my job because it's where I learn. Like, people talk about accreditation, CPUs, credits and whatnot, but like I learn every single fucking week. Sometimes 2 episodes a week. I've done 3 episodes a week. It's tough, but like you always come away with something new. I think that's what drives me to keep going most. Is like, these conversations are nuggets I get every single day. So
we were kind of talking about that last time, like, just the fact of you can learn from everybody, right? What was the expression you had? Something about you can at least learn what not to do?
Yeah, so it's a Portuguese phrase that translates to you can learn something from everyone, even a dumb person. You can learn not to be them.
Yeah. That's dope, because you really can. I mean, Bruce Lee kind of had that philosophy where it was like absorb what is good, discard what is not, and make everything your own. from those,
Mhm.
so learnings is never a stagnant thing. You should always be one of those ones that's an open vessel that's learning, vicariously or through the actual tactile work or the actual reading and the writing that you're doing. And again, talking to people, just like you were saying, just you learn something from everybody. Or at least you
Mhm.
learn, for not, don't be this jackass.
I think it's also like a humility thing as well, because like in the industry that we're in, like it's no secret that we have some egos. Like, and again, you to be great, you have to have an ego. Like, I'm not saying having an ego is a bad thing. It's knowing how to control that ego and saying, actually, I'm not actually 100% sure on this thing right now. Let me read up on it. Let me speak to someone else. Let me admit to the client, actually, I'm not quite sure on what to say here. Let me go back and research it. And I think like, there's such a powerful thing that comes from you admitting that to your clients, even. That's kind of like, okay, they know that whatever happens, like it's not that deep. Like he can go back and research it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what it is, right? Like as coaches, as strength coaches, as academics, professionals, like we don't know everything. I think our clients sometimes think that we are, that we do, but there's no shame in saying, you know what, I'm not quite sure on that. I'm not going to give you some bunk information. Let me go research it because again, when you go and research it, now you're learning for yourself and you're able to teach it to somebody else. So that's double the learning. And that happens quite a bit too, like you said, there's some egos in this industry and we all know that, but at the same time, if you can check yourself and be humble and just say, you know what, I don't know it all. Just because I got these letters behind my name or these credentials behind my back, like it doesn't mean I know everything. I may ask you, Manny, like Manny, I'm experiencing this issue with an 8-year-old who, matter of fact, here's the thing. I had this parent come to me the other day and said that her kid was going through early puberty at 8 years old and was wanting to start strength training. And I was like, early puberty? I think you're full of shit, but let me see if I know anything about this. Ultimately, they ended up not responding back to my email because I kind of politely told them that I didn't believe them. But so like it just goes to say that there's some things that you won't always know, right? Like
Mm.
so you can reach out. That's why your network is really important too. Like I don't know a lot of things in the strength conditioning world. I really don't. And when I think I do, I go to these national conferences and I talk to friends who have like PhDs and like all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're saying, fucking nerd, but like awesome. But again, I can go and if I don't know, I can at least reach out to the right people. I do feel like a lot of times in my industry, or at least like where I am right now in my life, in my stage of, career, I'm a connector. I don't necessarily know everything, but I know someone who might know something. And I think that that's kind of served me a little bit well because I do kind of like to hook people up. I like to be that cog in the middle where if this is what I know, this is what you're asking. I don't quite have the answer, but I'm going to pull you up. I'm going to hold you strong and I'm going to push you off to someone who does have a better idea for you. And that's what we should be. We should be connectors, right? If you are a successful person, you should be helping other people become successful too, through mentorship, through your own knowledge, through your own experience, through your connections. So that's why it is a little hard for me sometimes to just not help everybody else because I want them to succeed. So it's a balance between, like I have the answers for things, but when I don't know and you're asking me really specific questions on stuff that you might be experiencing, I might not know, but at least I have a network of people that I can go and reach out to and say, hey, you know what? I know a person who has this certain issue or this certain question or whatever. Can you talk to them and y'all connect that way? And then come back and tell me the answer. So I learn myself. So therefore, I'm a little more prepared for the next time it comes around.
I've got kind of two funny stories on this. Well, one funny story. I used to work at a swimming pool, and it was the same kind of situation where parents thought the kid was a little bit better than perhaps was. But it was a baby, like below 1 years old. Like he was still in arms. The parents turned to us like, "What? How young do you start swimming lessons? Because our kid's going to be an Olympic swimmer, so he needs to be in the pool now." Like we kind of look at each other and we're like, "What do you mean? Like, you can't even think yet. Like, what do you mean he's going to be an Olympic swimmer?" And it's kind of like we saw that and we're like, what is going on?
There is something to manifestation. I'll tell you that, right? Like I'm not really big into rubbing crystals and stuff like that, but manifestation, goal setting, positive thinking, like that, those things work. But I mean, at 1, and then you're gonna be an Olympian? Yeah. All right, cool. You manifested in your life, and I hope that for you.
The second one is we kind of spoke about this offline, and it's not going to conferences and what you're taught at these conferences. And again, I know that you play a big role in this, and you kind of have the same thoughts and feelings as me. So if I'm paying this money to travel and learn from other people, make it fucking practical.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea how many conferences I've been to. I was kind of like, yeah, cool, that's great in theory. In theory, that's fucking marvelous. But like, I can't use that. I don't have this specialty equipment thing that you're saying is going to revolutionize how my kids are going to perform. Like, sick, but like, that's not realistic.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit the other day. Like within it, at least I'll just speak for the organization that I'm a part of, right? So at the state level, we really do try to get grassroots presenters, right? People that are strength conditioning coaches, personal trainers, tactical athletes, TSAC coaches, nutritionists, all the domains that we have within NSCA that are local. We try to get those people to actually be presenters at our state clinic because they're doing something great in their industry locally right here, right? They may be on the national level or the higher spectrum or spotlight or whatever, but we try to find those people that are here. And so sometimes that's a challenge, right? We really do have to vet presenters, people that are wanting to be speakers at the state level. We really do have to vet them, their topic, their presentation. And then we also have to balance a lot of things. So if anybody's listening to this podcast has been to an NSCA state level conference clinic, remember, we have to balance so many different things between, the sector of professional work that they're doing. Are they in the private sector? Are they the TSAC? Are they in the nutrition realm? Are they allied health? What sector of work are they actually working in? Professional level, high school, collegiate, right? We balance that. We balance between ethnicities. Like, honestly, I love going to conferences where someone up there on the stage looks like me. It doesn't quite happen all the time, but again, I really do try to pull out those that are a little bit on the, how do I say this nicely? That do look a little different from what status quo normally is. And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna say this right now. I think the NSCA has been a good old boys club for a long fucking time. I'm gonna go ahead and say that on record, but it is what it is. So we balance between that. We balance between, what topics people want to hear about, what topics people want to know. So it's a challenge sometimes when we have these state level presenters, because again, our budget is usually based off of how many people we project to come to the conference. The NSA doesn't say, hey, here's $5,000, go put on a clinic and stay under budget. So I want people to really realize that, like, at the state level, you're getting grassroots people that are just doing things in their industry that are doing well around where they are. And hopefully we can raise them up to be presenters at the regional level. And so regional levels, you usually do get a little bit more qualified people that are speaking. They've been thoroughly vetted. They have presentations. They may have produced some, academic records or some academic journals. Usually those people at the regional level are doing a little bit more within the industry, kind of like going from, that we were talking about earlier, personal trainer to strength coach. They're usually doing something a little bit more profound. So that's why they've been selected at the regional level. At the state, at the national conference, don't get me started on that. I don't exactly know how they select all the people, but again, it's a balance between all these things. So I just want people to understand that, like, when you're looking at stuff that is at the state and the regional level, it's going to be a pool of people that are pulled from the region that are doing great things within their area. And again, at the national level, like, which is where everybody wants to go to these national conferences are great, but like, I may not have the same setup as a high school strength coach in Delaware, or someone who's working in a collegiate setting, in Texas. Like, I might not have the same setup. So again, like, it's practical. It might work, but for me, no. But I'm also not going to bash the presenter for having better things than I do. I'm never going to talk shit about anybody who has life a little bit better than me. It is what it is. So, like, the practicality part of it is where, again, like, you should do your research, and not you specifically, but if you are wanting to go to any kind of conference, look at the person that's presenting, look at their credentials, look at what they've done in the industry, look at their background, and decide if the topic is something you could, and I guarantee you, all of these presenters are normal fucking people. So if you wanted to, you could probably send them a message and say, hey, such and such, I'm thinking about coming to this clinic and you're a presenter and I'm interested in what you're talking about. Can you elaborate a little bit more before I come? And so therefore you're not disappointed by the time you get there, like, oh, well, this was nothing for me. You have the information. You can reach out to that person and get a little bit more information about that. We get that sometimes, like especially in our after clinic, surveys, you get people that's like, oh, well, this had nothing to do with my field of profession. Guess what? There's also 8 other presenters that are here and 70, 80 other people here. Like that presentation might not have been for you, but like we were talking about earlier, you can still learn from everyone, right? Just because it does not inherently apply to your profession right now doesn't mean that there wasn't some nuggets of information that you couldn't pull from that. Like you couldn't learn from it. So the other thing that I always tell people too is like, if you think that you could have done better, get your ass up on the stage, put in your call for presenters, right? Bring your knowledge and expertise to the field. Because especially at this point, if you are going to these clinics, you are trying to improve yourself. If you're going to these conferences, you're trying to improve yourself. You should be learning from everybody that you talk to. No matter if it's the doorman at the hotel or the flight attendant on the plane going over there. By the time that you are getting to this profession and you are making this your career, you should be learning from everyone. And even if it's learning not to do those things. But the fact that when people sometimes like, oh, well, that had nothing to do with what I do in life, who the fuck cares? Like, figure it out. Like, there's something that you can learn from them, right? You may not like the way they presented the topic, or you would have done a little bit better, or a little bit differently. Cool. We applaud you to apply, to speak, because everybody thinks that it's that easy to get up on a stage and just talk and talk and talk and talk. No, it's not. It's really not. It's nerve-wracking. It's challenging. You have to, you question yourself a lot of times. Am I qualified to be up here? Sorry, I went off on a rant on that one, but like, honestly, we do get people sometimes that are like complain about, oh, well, this wasn't practical for my profession. Figure it the fuck out. Like, you could have done all the things beforehand to see if that was a topic that was worth it for you to go and listen to. A lot of times, these presentations have really sweet titles, like super sweet titles. If you are unclear of what they're going to talk about, DM. They're normal people. There are people just like me and you. And I know if someone sent me a message saying, hey, Fed, like, I'm interested in your topic. Can you explain a little bit more? I'd be giddy as fuck. Like, if somebody wants to learn from me, like, I'd be giddy as hell. But, like, just because it doesn't inherently apply to what you're doing right now doesn't mean that you still can't learn something. But I do agree where you're coming from. Something should be practical. If I'm going to pay
I will
money
also
somewhere,
interject and say US conferences and UK, like European conferences, are very different.
mm-hmm.
What I'm talking about is like, it's just science. Science. It's not about like, so I've sat through a presentation where I was just talking about molecules.
Ooh,
Like,
you're a biologist?
well, no, he was a strength coach, researcher. So I should have maybe perhaps made that clear, but I do agree with what you're saying. Like, I was speaking to Tim Sukumel, which we obviously both know, and we were talking about, what's it called, the deloaders. Like, as soon as you hit the floor, they kind of tilt back and you're free to do reps. Like, I don't have those. But like, if I did, what he was talking about was super fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is like, I've sat through an hour presentation talking about molecules, where it's like, that's fucking wonderful to know, but like, application wise, what's that going to do? How am I going to apply that?
I think a big part of that too is just knowing your audience. Honestly, like if I'm in a room full of scientists and a bunch of researchers, and again, when I call you a nerd, I mean that in the most colloquial sense ever. But if I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of fucking nerds, like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about molecules and I'm gonna enjoy talking about, whatever on that level. You're talking to strength coaches, people that are practical people that want to know, like, hey, how do I get my athlete better? How do I get them stronger? Like, yeah, like, know your audience, because if there's a nugget that I can take away from your presentation, even if it's a lecture based, then yeah, that's awesome. But honestly, like, most of us, we want to get up and move. We want to go figure out, like, how do we attach this band to make this result? Or how do we, maybe invest in this lower level piece of equipment, or maybe this higher level piece of tech that's going to make my athletes a little bit better. So I feel where you come from. Like nobody wants to sit. I mean, I won't say nobody because sometimes people really do geek out on that stuff. And again, if you're a nerd, you're a nerd. It is what it is. Like I'm a nerd on some part. But like honestly, yeah, do I want to sit and talk about all that stuff? No, I start to doze off a little bit. But yeah, I feel where you come from.
I'll tell you another funny one that I experienced last year. I was at a conference and this speaker it was a 30-minute slot and they were talking about the importance. So, yeah, backstory. They were a physio. They were at a strength and conditioning conference talking about the importance of strength and conditioning for 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, kind of. Yeah, we agree.
Water is wet. Yeah. So everybody knows. All right, cool.
No, but I think so. Again, kind of like what you're saying, it does make kind of sense for it to be done at a higher level, but it's that you need to vet who you're having speak and know your audience, know what they're needing and wanting.
But just honestly too, just understanding again, like we were talking about earlier about your credentials on your forehead. Everybody knows you're smart. Everybody knows you know your shit. But like, how do you convey what you know to people that are trying to learn from you, right? And so if I'm talking to an audience of a bunch of doctors and researchers, yeah, I'm going to use all those terms and, but again, if I'm a doctor and I'm talking about molecules and I'm talking about, whatever the case be, but I'm talking to a bunch of strength coaches, well, how do I make it applicable to them? And I think a lot of that is just like cueing and coaching. If I want an athlete to be able to do something, a hinge, a squat, or whatever the case may be, but I have to be able to speak a language to them that they will understand and compute, or at least give them some kind of reference point or metaphor or something like that. I love storytelling and strength conditioning. Like it's great. Like I love to just sit here and tell you a story and then bring it back to what it is that we're actually doing. But cueing is the same way, right? If I can't deliver what I'm saying effectively to you, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. And so therefore that's when a lot of the injuries happen. That's when, people start to dislike your programming. They think that you're incompetent, all the things, right? But again, if I'm speaking over your head or I'm speaking below you, then of course it's going to get irritating. And that's going back to that psychology piece, understanding just how to communicate with people. Like that's a big part of it. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a presentation, if you're at a conference, or if you're, talking to a 4-year-old about, jumping over a bar. Like you got to be able to communicate to the audience that you're talking to.
So this is actually something I've been working on, and it came from me listening to Dr. Brian Mann speak, and it's his way of adding stories in to tie into what he's presenting about. And when I saw, because he was across here last year, and I had dinner with him and Coach Ron McKeefe at the end, and I was like, I love how you integrate stories into your presentations, because he's a smart guy, fucking super smart, but he still has these anecdotal stories that go along with what he's talking about. So this year I made that point, let me try to figure that out. Let me see how I said
human people, the easier it is for you to lead them in all reality, right? Like if you just present yourself as this super knowledgeable individual that can't be touched, or, this powerful person, it's really hard to lead people at that point. Because at that point, you're probably just leading by fear. And so the more humanistic you can become with people through storytelling, through anecdotal evidence that's not necessarily always hardcore rooted in the science, you become a little bit more, I won't say soft, but the walls come down for other people to trust you a little bit more. And so that storytelling and coaching is beautiful, right? Because you can talk about something that's funny or something that happened and then bring it back to why you're doing the things you're doing and then reiterate that and coach that again. Because now that athlete's sitting here going, oh, okay, well, I remember, Manny was telling me about the time that he fell down when he was trying to do a single leg RDL, but at the same time, he was also trying to jump over a puddle. And this is what I need to do. I need to keep my back straight because he didn't have his back straight, or whatever case may be. Sometimes people will process that way. And especially in today's world where people have ADHD like a motherfucker, they got a bunch of stuff jumping around their head. But if we can bring it back to a focus or some kind of attention or focal point, then it's a lot easier to connect with that person to what they're doing. But being human is just human. I'll sit here and tell you, I tell my clients all the time, if I'm a shitty coach, if you think I'm a shitty coach, if for nothing, I'm a great storyteller. I'm going to entertain your ass for an hour. Easy. So I always got something going on, at least, in my life, or something that I saw funny or I watched on TV or whatever the case be. I'll entertain you for an hour. And if or not, you're getting that entertainment. but my clients know that I'm a good coach. I just be on my shit.
I tell my clients all the time, and again, they've been with me for a while, so it's clients that I know I can be a little bit more pushy in their training, and it's like as long as I'm funny, I can push it as hard as I want.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes, right? If I can smile if I can laugh at, through this miserable set of whatever it is I'm doing, I can tolerate a little bit more.
Yeah.
Laughter's a funny thing, or at least just enjoyment, right? Like if
Mhm.
people will do things when they enjoy being around the people that they enjoy being around, right? Like that's
Eh,
why the vibe, as much as we don't really talk about the vibe because it's not as scientifically studied or whatever, the vibe is fucking that makes a big difference, right? I use poker a lot of times. Like I play poker. I love to play poker, but I'm not super great at it. But there's poker books, there's poker coaches, there's poker online, there's poker everywhere, right? Like you can play poker on a computer, but it's different from playing inside of a room. And it's different from playing inside of a room with your buddies. It's different from playing inside of a card room that has a bunch of other poker tables. It's different from playing in a casino. But in-person live poker is way different because the vibe is different, right? The tails may be the same online or whatever, but now it's a whole lot different because I can see you tapping your foot every time that you got a good hand. I can see you, playing with your cards or your chips or whatever case may be. If I'm playing online, I'm playing the exact same game, but I can't see that. I'm relying straight on theory, what I'm supposed to play, how I'm supposed to play it, when I'm supposed to fold, when I'm supposed to raise. I'm relying straight on theory. But there's been a lot of times, and again, I'm not the greatest poker player. I'm decent, but not the greatest poker player. But there's been times that I've beaten some people with hands that I knew that I had lost because I bluffed them off. I did the right thing. I read the room. I felt the vibe. It was a little bit different. I knew good and damn well I shouldn't be playing these cards. But I know this player because I've been playing with them for a while. I know this player. I know their style. I can push them off of some stuff. And so the vibe is just different. And that's kind of the way I look at it, this whole industry too. Like learning is great. Theory is beautiful. Education is very much important. But until you actually work with people realistically, it's just theory. You're playing poker online until you actually get into the card rooms and you get into there, you see people and interact and feel and vibe with them and just be able to get better that way. That's where it makes the biggest difference. And that's why I like using that poker analogy all the time because poker is one of those things that you can easily get better playing poker by just knowing the strategy of what to do. But it does not do anything about your nerves when you actually are playing in front of other people or playing with a real breathing human. That's why I said just if you can learn to be a little bit more human every now and then, you will go a long way in this industry. Understanding empathy, compassion, but also understanding psychology of the fact that people want to get better. They want to do things to make themselves better. That's the reason why they're coming to you for their expertise. And then also just being realistic with people like, hey, I don't know all the answers. I don't have everything. And I'm not this end all be all guru. I still learn every day from everyone. So, and when I don't know something, I go and ask questions. And on top of that too, like I said, I will tell you all the flaws and the mistakes that I made just to become a little bit more humanistic to you. So you don't think that I'm on this fucking pedestal. I'm not any better than you just because you're paying me for me to train you, or I'm at your university, or you're at my university and I'm a strength coach at a university. I'm not any better than you, right? Like I'm on my pants just like you do. I'm a normal person just like you are. But I just know this is my area of expertise. And I'm going to tell you this is my area of expertise. And I'm going to expect you to actually listen and understand. But I also know that like I'm a normal person too. I got to this level of expertise because I fucked up a lot. I fucked up a lot. And it built me to being here. And I learned from the theory, the anecdotal, and the things that work and the things that I've experienced that don't work. So that if I had to capsulize this whole podcast today, that would be my whole summary of what I was saying, this whole time.
No, I 100% agree. And again, I'm not going to touch on this conversation because it doesn't need highlighted. But again, we're all just humans.
Yeah.
Like with everything that happens in life, that's my goal in life is just to be a human. No, it's an awesome job, but it does obviously come with those quirks. And I think in the position that you are, like I know some of the presenters you've put on in this past clinic, like some of them are my favorite people alive. It's nice to see like there's coaches and there's people who see what they're doing and want to like push that side of the industry forward. Like, so again, Nate and Coach Stay, like they're some of my favorite people, and like they were at your clinic, and I know what they're talking about is a real thing that they do, and that's awesome for me to see too.
Yeah, it's the state director position it's been fun over the last couple of years. I will also it hasn't been super stressful, but the state director that was before me, when I talked to him, he was like, "It's a thankless job." And at first I was like, whatever. But it really is. I mean, you're a volunteer. So the main purpose of the director position at the state is to put on a state conference every year. That's the number one goal. And then you get these surveys, and sometimes it's hard not to take them personally what people say. Like, I thought that last clinic that we had was our best clinic that I put on, like hands down, good location. You know, we had a morning lift, we had good presenters, we had our mistakes. We had some things that we could have done better. We always know that, but like, damn, man, like that was what our score was, you know, on a scale from negative 100 to 100, this is what our score was. I was like, damn, right, that's kind of rough. But again, just, you know, like, I would never want to be the president of the United States, because people are going to love you or hate you instantaneously just off of your political party whatsoever. So it's kind of like that too. Like, putting on these clinics, sometimes people love it that you have it on the West Coast or the West side of the state. They hate it, or vice versa, right? So we'll continue to just, you know, get great presenters at our clinic. We'll continue to have grassroots presenters. We'll continue to have people that are just doing good things within their communities, within their area in strength and conditioning, and continue to try to promote them up to regional conference speakers and then eventually national level speakers. Like this last conference, I definitely think we had probably 2 or 3 people that could present at the national level, 100%. And so as a state director, that's my recommendation, is to recommend those presenters that I think should present at the next level because of their eloquence of presenting, because of the knowledge they're presenting, because of the topic they're presenting, because of just their swag and their vibe, you know. Again, that's back to that vibe thing. You can't replicate a vibe from somebody, right? Going back to those soft skills that we were talking about earlier, right? Like, you can teach hospitality, but you can't replicate the way somebody does it. The way somebody says, you know, "Can I fill your coffee, sugar?" And they say it that way, and you just feel some type of way about it, right? Like, you can't replicate that. Those are soft skills that we know about, but at the same time, they're hard to replicate. So we will continue to try to push to have great speakers within Washington State. I know I have probably 2.5 years left as a state director. So these next 2.5 years, be ready. Like, Manny, we might pull you from Scotland.
I'm down. I'm always down. There was a presentation I did recently on leadership, and I essentially ended it with, say what you mean what you say. And it's that thing of like, if you're saying things because you know that's what people want to hear, they're going to see through that quick. So it's like that example that you gave. Do you want some more coffee, sugar? Like, you can feel the warmth and the tonality of that person. That might be the 100th customer they said that to, but that thing is still in it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful part about coaching too, like coaching large groups. A good coach will make it feel like it's just me and you, right? Like, a good coach, just in the way that they make corrections, they say it out loud, the way that they bring a group together, they will make it seem like that even though I'm coaching a team of 18 people, that coach is directly talking to me. And that's a beautiful thing about the coach's voice. And I think that people sometimes think that coach's voice is just this loud, deep, drill instructor, like raspy. That's not always it. Like, a coach's voice is, if I'm shooting free throws in clutch situation, and my coach has told me millions of times to follow through, that when it comes down to that pressure point, that pressure moment, I hear my coach's voice in the back of my head. I think that coach's voice a lot of times too is, if I'm a young athlete and I have the choice to go to a party and be out all night, but I also know that I have to catch the bus the next morning at 6 a.m., the coach's voice is saying, "You're an adult, but you're going to go make the right choices. Go to bed so you can be up in the morning." That coach's voice is a little bit of the conscience that is talking to that athlete. It's not always just that loud screaming, whatever, but it's do the right fucking thing. Do I need this piece of cake, or can I eat a banana? Okay, my coach is telling me I need to fuel my body the right way. I'm going to do that. That coach's voice doesn't always have to be this, bah, bah, bah. It's just that conscious thing, that little extra thing that coach can say to that person to make that person make a better choice. That's
Yeah,
it. Or remember something,
I think the best example for this is like when you're in a public, like when you've been used to public gyms, like you're not used to someone making an emphasis on technique. Like they don't have time, which is fine if that's the way they want things to be. But like I know for a fact that my clients, like, because they've said like anytime I'm exercising by myself, all I hear is your fucking voice.
Yep.
And it's like, it's
Here's
not necessarily like, it's like, so my thing is like, if you're doing a lunge or a walking lunge or some form of variation of lunge, unless you have a pad under your knee, don't fucking slam that knee onto the floor. That's one of my pet peeves. I want to protect your body. Slamming your knee is not one of them. So like they know if they're doing lunges or if there's a lunge in their program, don't fucking slam that knee. So like I've got one client that they used to be really fucking bad for it. And I lost my shit once. I was like, if you do that again, nothing's going to happen, but I'm going to be pissed. And then I saw them like they were doing walking lunges and they were just like, I saw them in their head. I was like, what's in your head just now? And she's like, don't slam my knee. Don't slam my knee. I can hear your voice. I was like, all right, cool.
I got a client I've been training for like 10 years, man. Like not directly, but like she was at Orange Theory and other places. And she's one of my favorite people in the entire world. She made me this shirt one time and it said Fedisms, shit that you need to hear. Basically it said something about shit that he says just because you need to hear it. And it's a list of a bunch of things on the back of the shirt of like I'd say on a regular basis. Like, and she would tell me too, when she's working on her own, she would listen, she would hear the Fedism that says, oh, that's cute. Because I would always say, oh, that's cute. That little baby weight, that's cute. Go get a bigger one. Because don't be afraid to lift the heavy shit. And I would tell her that, and I would actually take the dumbbell and throw it on the ground and bring her a big one. Like, oh, I brought you something. Here's a bigger dumbbell. So when she was on her own, she would always be like, that's cute. She would hear me saying that in her head and then put the little dumbbell down and go get the bigger one. Because again, that's something that's adaptation that starts to happen, right? Like the brain has to process the fact that I can't do this. And so there are some people who accept that challenge and don't just want to do the same old thing on a regular basis. That's how adaptation happens, right? You have to give yourself a little bit more of a stimulus. And that's awesome, the fact that like that coach's voice makes them go, you know what? My coach would be proud of me. My coach would be honored. My coach would be ecstatic. My coach would be disappointed. Whatever the emotion is that's attached to that coach is going to make that person change that behavior. And I love human psychology just for these reasons, because again, if I'm working with a client and that client trusts me wholeheartedly, they're paying me a good amount of money for their results and they trust me wholeheartedly, they will hear me whenever they are on their own. A lot of times they'll feel me too because they sore as hell, but they'll hear my voice saying, you know what? I know I need to get up and go for a walk on my own. I know I need to meal prep my food tonight. I know I need to do the things. And so that coach's voice is super, super important because of the psychology in general. Like if I know I am paying to get some results and I know I need to work hard for it, and I know I need to listen to that coach to tell me to do the things that I don't fucking really want to do, but I need to go and do it anyway, I'm going to do it because I know that coach is going to have some kind of reaction to it. And we do get clients that are like that. We do get clients that perform for you. And I say that kind of in a weird way, but they perform for you. They will do the things that you want them to do because they want you to feel proud of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell every one of them, I'll talk shit to you a lot. Like, yo, I know you can. And again, knowing the client, right? Knowing the athlete. If there's an athlete that I know needs a lot of praise, I'm going to give you a lot of praise because I know I'm going to get the best out of you. If I got an athlete that I know I need to talk a shit to or challenge a little bit, I'm going to be like, hey, yo, Jeff, by the way, Manny was over here earlier today and he did this much. What? And then Jeff will put on some more weight on the bar. And again, being safe and effective. Going back to just knowing your people and the psychology of it, right? Like positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. I don't necessarily need to punish you on a regular basis for doing things. I need to actually sometimes encourage you to do more or to do better or to pull you to the wayside. When I was in the military, I just thought about this. When I was in the military, I remember we always used to have to say the NCO creed, the non-commissioned officer creed. And it went, paraphrasing, mostly like this: I'm an NCO, dedicated to training new Marines and influencing the old. And so that was a big part of like, yeah, we have these new people coming in and it's my job to train them, but also the ones that are around, how can I influence them to continue to do what they're supposed to do and continue to be better? Yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. But anyway.
Well, look, I think this is, so I love the psychology side of coaching. And again, I do some weird, it's not weird, it's like underhanded shit with my clients. Like if I know they're on a good day and they can lift heavier, I'll just swap it out without them noticing. I'll just like, let's see if they notice. So there was I once had someone doing RDLs, two dumbbells, RDLs, bilateral. And like she was moving smooth. And if I see someone moving smooth, you're fucking getting a heavier weight. Non-negotiable. But like she was in her squat, so I swapped out for like it was 4 kilograms heavier, which is it was a fair decent amount of weight to be added on. She gets up from our last rep. I was like, how was that? I was like, that felt heavier. I was like, oh, okay. Like, why? She's like, I don't know. Didn't feel. I just felt heavier. Like, all right. Look at the weight. She's like, what do you mean? Look at the weight. She looked. I was like, that's heavier. I was like, that's maybe why it felt heavier.
I think sometimes we get a lot of people that are just always chasing PRs. Like I said, going to the track meet this weekend, you see these kids like you get instantaneous feedback, like augmented feedback right away. As soon as you cross the line, your time is there. And I think a lot of times we get people that are chasing PRs instead of just training. And again, there's a reason. There's sometimes people need to chase PRs, especially if you're competing at the highest level, whatever. But in the regular world or in the private sector, like, yeah, PRs are great, but I also am trying to stay sustainable for the rest of my life. So I think sometimes, we do get people that are just constantly chasing more weight, more load, faster times, and as athletes, that's great. That's what we want to do because we compete. But like I said, in the private sector, PRs are awesome, but I also know that I'm just trying to improve. And that's an easy way to just say, hey, you know what? You just did 4 kilograms higher because you know how to do this exercise. And now I felt confident enough for you to push a little bit more. Now your standard has changed. It was here. Now it's here. And again, we can talk about training philosophies and principles all day long, but that's exactly what that is. You've gotten better. The acute responses have now become chronic responses. And so now your chronic responses is here. Next time you do this RDL, you're 4 kilograms heavier. There is no going back. There ain't no going back.
No, 100%. I think that's what I love most is like having people achieve something that they didn't think possible up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like I love this podcast because like sometimes we'll go super heavy into the programming and periodization models and whatever else, but then like we just talk about being humans and like how to effectively get people to change their behaviors to do what they want, to achieve what they want. And I think we need a mix of that in this industry. Like because of the nature of the industry, we always want to be like, this is what I know. But like how do we get there though? Like that's what's important. Is like, yes, knowing the science, knowing the practical, doing the science. But it's like, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, just
How
being human, the soft skills, and everybody knows something. And if you don't know something, definitely you can go and learn it. But like just being normal people and just talking to each other, like that goes a long way just in general, right? Like I don't have a podcast, but I love going to conferences because I get to talk to coaches and just shoot the shit with them, right? Like the first national conference I ever went to, I was shocked. I was like almost starstruck because I had met Jay Dawes. And I remember reading Jay Dawes' like funny story about Jay Dawes, but a guy I know here who's not even in the strength and conditioning world was like, hey, I got a buddy I went to school with who I think he does something in like strength conditioning or something. I don't know. He wrote a book. Yeah, you should reach out to him. His name is Jay. And I was like, all right. So I just reached out to Jay Dawes and I was like, all right, this guy's not going to respond. And I sent him an email and sure as shit, he responded back. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And then I go to national conference the first time. It was in Vegas a few years ago. And he sat down. I was like, oh, shit, I know you. Like, I was starstruck. I was like, oh, I know you. I know you. And he was a normal person, just a normal fucking person. Cool as hell. We sat down. We had a beer. We shot the shit. We talked a little bit about, strength conditioning and everything, but we talked on some normal basis, right? Like, and I think that's what's cool about going to the conferences in general is the fact of like, yeah, everybody knows something. And that's one thing I realized too when I go to these national level conferences. Everyone who goes to a national level conference, doesn't matter if you're speaking or if you're in attendance, is somebody. Everybody is somebody. Everybody knows something. Everybody is doing something. Everybody is somebody. No bullshit. I sat down at a table one time and I was talking to somebody and they was like, oh yeah, I'm presenting at 2:00. I'm saying, oh shit, my fault. Right. So, but everybody is somebody. But the cool thing about it is you can talk to that somebody that they're the, dean of whatever. They're, director of strength conditioning, whatever. They have a title, they're somebody, but it's cool because you can sit and talk to them as normal fucking people and get more information out of that sometimes than you could get in an hour lecture with them talking about molecules. And that's what I like about going to the conferences is like you get to connect with people, not so much in the classroom or in the weight room, but just as normal fucking people that have their own struggles and things of, dealing with wife and kids and, long hours and just talking about normal shit that's not necessarily the X and O's of exercise science. That's what's cool about going to the conferences to me, man. Like I like going to the national conferences. I was almost scared that I wasn't going to go this year. But I like going to the national conferences because you learn from people, you learn the scientific part of the stuff, you learn the practical part of the stuff, you learn to just talk to people in general, you connect with folks, you connect with people. And like I collect business cards. And so if I don't know something, but I know that you know something, I may be able to connect you later. And that's the beautiful part about it, right? But again, just talking to people on that normal everyday basis because everybody knows something.
Yeah.
Everybody knows something, especially in this industry. We all know a lot of the same things, but everybody knows something a little bit different, and everybody's just a normal person. So just talk to them like regular people.
I'll tell you two funny examples of what you're talking about. So when I was able to get this opportunity to the US, names for me mean nothing. Like I have to see your face and associate the name to the face and or name to the work. But when I was in my third year of university, third year, I drove 2 hours to university every 2 days. So like it was a Monday, it was either Wednesday or Friday. So it was a Monday or Friday. And I would just put like either a podcast on or like an audiobook or something. And I was like, okay, if I wanted to be serious about S&C, let me read some S&C book practitioners, not necessarily textbook, but books that practitioners have wrote and published. So one that I read was CEO Strength Coach. I was like, that's fucking great because, we don't have a collegiate setting. I need to be an entrepreneur type setting. Cool. By Ron McKeefery. Sick. Name, book. Cool. I then get the opportunity to go to the US and I get paired up with Ron McKeefery. I'm like, sick, that's sick. Don't Google nothing. I'm just like, okay, he wanted me to be there. Cool. I then jump on a call with him and he's like, oh yeah, I'm Ron McKeefery. Walks me through what the situation is going to be like. And he was like, oh yeah, I've wrote 2 books. I was like, all right, cool. Left at that. I then search his name again and I'm like, cool. He sounds awesome. I then get prepared to go back, to now go to the US to do this internship. I was like, let me prepare, let me re-hear the book that I heard on my way to university. I click on it, says Ron McKeefery. I'm like, wait, Ron McKeefery? That's the same guy. I'm going to be internship under the guy that I read his book a while ago. And I'm like, fuck. So
It's cool. You get to meet your hero sometimes.
yeah, I tell him this story and he starts pissing himself laughing. And most recently at this conference in Italy, I was watching the alpine skiers. The Olympic team was there, so I just drop in on their session. I'm just watching the session. One of the coach comes up and like introduces himself. I'm like, oh, like, what do you do for the team? He's like, oh, I'm the head coach. I was like, oh, sick. And like we were just having a fucking normal ass conversation. Like he was walking through the training, like he was just explaining what was going on. I was like, "Oh yeah, sick. What do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm the head coach." I was
Just nonchalantly like, run this shit.
like, all this shit, me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, so I think that also comes at the thing of like he was so laid back and he just walked through like all his training. Like he didn't need to. Like not a lot of coaches do. And it was like he was just so chill. It's like this is what I do, this is why I do it. And it was a super nice conversation because he didn't make it feel like he was the head of everything. He was just like, we're just talking about training.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to the NSCA started doing these performance summits, and I went to one that was in Eugene, Oregon, like 2 months ago, and Vern Gambetta was one of the speakers, and I was like, "Oh, I remember reading your books when I was going through my undergraduate stuff." Like, it's cool sometimes, and again, just a normal person, and you talk to him, and it's like, "Oh, you have a vast array of knowledge." Like, I can tell that if I sat here all day long, I'm just gonna just soak up so much from you. But again, just it's cool sometimes when you get to meet the people that are writing the strength conditioning books, that are, anecdotally going through the things that the other people are writing about in strength conditioning books. So and hopefully, as we get older, we are the ones that are making forth that next wave of great research and great things that we're doing in our industry, for the ones that are come up underneath us. So that's kind of the hope, is to be the legacy that you've seen come up before in the 50, 60 years that the strength and conditioning world has been around.
Yeah, Brad, I really appreciate
Hey,
you.
I got a great bounce, man. It's Father's Day.
No, it's all good. I really appreciate you for coming on and spending some time.
Yeah, man.
If you can let people know where they can sort of find you and perhaps like ask further questions and whatnot.
Yeah. So again, you can find me. My website is Sound Sports Performance. My email is soundsportsperformance@gmail.com. And our phone number is 42 in America. So one first, 425-419-8608. And we are also on social media. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram at Sound Sports Performance. So you can find us anywhere that way. If you're looking for me specifically, make sure you spell my name correctly. It's Federick. Because if you look up Frederick Brooks, you won't find me. It's like an old white dude, I think. And I'm not even being funny. Like literally, if you Google Frederick, it's an older white dude. So make sure you spell my name correctly. You can find me there. Yep.
I'll put your gym up as well.
There we go. Sound Sports Performance and Training.
Perfect. And again, appreciate you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Manny. Appreciate you.